Welcome to the Brickhouseof Art. I'm your host, Brick Astley. The purpose of this talk show is to talk to independent artists, creators, builders, and collectors. Today's guest is head of community at Solana's NFT marketplace, FormFunction. He's an artist himself, CryptoMagellan. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're very grateful to have you on the Brickhouseof Art.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me, Brick. Really excited to be here. My first kind of foray, showing my face to the crypto world, NFT world. And so yeah, happy to bring that to you and also share a lot more about FormFunction. Thanks again.
Hey, I appreciate that. We get the face docs here on the Brickhouseof Art. So make sure to get in on that independent art. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like, subscribe, and share. Make sure to go to FormFunction, subscribe, hit the notifications, follow CryptoMagellan. Make sure it's the original CryptoMagellan. There's a lot of scammers out there. This one's the real deal. For those that in the Brickhouseof Art that might be meeting you for the first time, what brought you to Web3?
Yeah, absolutely. So happy to get into that a bit. So with Web3, I actually was brought on by Bitcoin and Ethereum at first, investor since around 2017. And was just curious about the technology, saw kind of what it was doing for financials and markets, a little bit different than the usual banking system. So piqued my interest. Anything that kind of puts itself out there and takes a risk is always intriguing to me. And so I just invested, and we had that kind of bear market in 2019, and I paid less attention then, like still held the coins and was just kind of considered it a long-term investment. And yeah, just kind of relaxed on it. And then I would say around 2020 or so, COVID hit. I started to see NFTs really gain some traction on Ethereum. So that's when I kind of was curious, and something that made a little bit more sense to me as someone who, as a kid, collected things like sports cards, all kinds of collectibles, things like that. Was also into gaming, and it's like, oh, I guess this is just the kind of the digital analog of that. And to me, it made sense of kind of a natural jumping off point for massive onboarding to cryptocurrency, and a cool kind of peer-to-peer mechanism for people to connect, trade, sell things that really you didn't have. And something that was really interesting to me as well is like the platform neutrality of it. You could choose to list on, at the time, like OpenSea or other marketplaces on Ethereum. And so in that kind of sense is different than having an asset locked into a game or something like that. So got really into it, started collecting things on Ethereum. And then a little bit after that, it would have been, probably January, February 2021. I learned about Solana and I started using it. Before I had been more a passive investor, and I started actually using the chains. I was like, wow, this is super fun, like intriguing. I learned about crypto Twitter. Actually started on my work account, like posting about Solana. And I was like, oh, I kind of need to like step back. I think there's a little bit of skepticism there, or at least just wanted some anonymity. So I started the Magellan account in April as an anonymous account and really dove into the Solana ecosystem. So back when I joined in Solana, it would have been January, February 2021. Like I said, there was almost no infrastructure for NFTs. And the only wallet was Solid. Some of the newer people might not even know about this wallet, but that was like the OG wallet that people used, and appreciate them for all they did. The UX was not my favorite personally, but everything was really fast and cheap comparative to ETH, where NFTs like really taking off. So it's like, oh wow, like NFTs aren't really established here, but this sort of chain could take off. And there's a marketplace at the time called Solable. Solable is like one of the earliest ones, where you actually, the tech was like so early, you had to email it to list an NFT. It was like super, it's like dial-up style, like, like the huge, I imagine like the huge brick mobile phones, this kind of thing. But anyway, so in my head, it clicked. I was like, oh, wow, I'm early to this. Like, I should get involved. So I started minting some NFTs. Anyway, long story short, I got really into it. Minted like one of the first generative projects on Solana. It's called Solarians, like these little robots. Yeah. And that was in April, and then just dove in, and I like got for whatever reason, my account started to grow, and got into it, and became a passion of mine. Like I love the people I was meeting. And kind of over time, of course, we had like the big bull market, which helps like kind of foster that along. But as I went on, I was more into the PFP side at first. I was one of these original members of Monkey DAO, where I was like maybe one of the first like 20 people in there or something. Not like technically on that call where they co-founded it, but I would consider myself like one of the early people there, one of the OGs. And that's when I was like, whoa, now we've got these like kind of organizations. I realized I'm meeting these really just like people who are incredibly talented artists, developers, lawyers, like, and I'm like, this is just a cool, like, there's a lot of amazing people here. And it's a place that I wanted to get to know people. And not only that, but really international community. Fast forward, I got away from the PFP stuff because I got uncomfortable like playing that sort of like influencer role, where people were like taking my advice, even though it came from a genuine place of like excitement for things. But I think I just at one point I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go more towards the art side. I was a photographer myself, and I started buying and collecting one-of-one art back when Holoplex was just starting off, and Metaplex came up with their standards. So that was really cool for me, and something that really clicked. And I was like, oh wow, this these cool, talented artists. Like, I want to do this, release some of my own photography. And then, yeah, got involved with that. Started off part-time at night. So little known fact, I actually am a PhD in cognitive psychology. So I was doing postdoc research, living in Switzerland at the time. And at night, I would just grind. I was like, buying art, like my daughter gets to bed at like 9 or 10, and I'm just like up late, like doing the work. And I joined Matrica Labs, who does Discord verification, as like an early ambassador and like part-time community manager. Super informal, and like kind of like help them kick off and promote their stuff early in the going. And as I did that, I was organized like gaming tournaments stuff. And then I was like, wait, like I'm doing this part-time. It's a little bit much on top of my regular job, but I really like it. Like I want to do more of it. And so that's when I realized like there's actually a job, like I could do this. And so started looking around something that fit my interests and aligned with me personally. And joined FormFunction back in February, and really that brings us here. Kind of course, it's been a few long months since then, but exciting months, and it's been awesome to build with them. So a little bit of a long story, but that's how I got here and made the leap and changed from my regular job back in February 2022 this year.
How exciting is that? That's kind of the dream. Like you kind of figure like a lot of people come in, get brought in by the Bitcoin, by the Ethereum, and then then they find the altcoins, the other chains that are up and coming, those opportunities. You saw an opportunity, you took it, and everything flourished from there. What amazing things can happen from the opportunities, and that's so cool to know that about your PhD there. That's pretty incredible. Congratulations on that. That's an achievement of one's own. So what brought FormFunction to Solana? Can you talk to me a little bit about FormFunction and it is a marketplace and how it came to be, and a little bit more about your initial interactions with the devs there?
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to. So how FormFunction came to be. So the co-founders are Matt and Catherine. It's Pencil Flip and Petra Turret on Twitter. Definitely give them a follow. They're pretty young founders, and they actually came from working at Instagram and on Oculus, so at Facebook. And so they had a lot of experience building products at scale, and they really learned about Solana, I think around, my understanding, it would be like September, October 2021. And really started diving in as they knew about ETH, and had even played around with building some things on Matic, which is an ETH L2, but not really gained a lot of traction there. But they came into the Solana world, and we're really excited about it. And actually, Catherine, who's our CEO and co-founder, is an artist as well. And so she makes comic art and illustration work, and she wanted a place to list her work. And her partner is Matt Pencil Flip, and he was like, I'm going to help. I'm going to like build this marketplace to like help my partner sell her art. And at the time, Exchange was really young, and generally they just felt like they wanted like a really good UX around selling art on Solana, especially given the nature of the chain and the cheap, fast fees, carbon neutral. They were like really excited about that. So yeah, it started as like a personal project, like sell Catherine's art, and then they actually received a lot of interest, like and got some funding for it. So it grew into something bigger, like quite fast. And it just started like it was just them as the core team. Just literally like he does the development work and she does the design and the UX, which is kind of crazy. And so it grew from there. It was really exciting. They came up with the branding and everything all on their own. And then our team now is is five, or well, six now, five, and then one part-time person. And so there's another developer who also came from Instagram, a developer who actually did some work with Chorus One. It's like one of the biggest Solana validators. They do validator services across different chains. And then Abby, who just came on, who's doing part-time community marketing stuff to help me. And so early on, I just was intrigued about the incredible UX with FormFunction. You had commented or had asked about kind of those early interactions, and I just saw it and I was like, it's funny actually, when they announced the marketplace, which would have been, I think, January or so, they had like a landing page put out. I checked it out, I was like, wow, this UX is incredible, it looks beautiful, so exact kind of product we need for Solana. Started looking into the founders a little bit. I was like, oh, they have, you know, we all have maybe like some mixed associations with Facebook, not gonna lie. But the one thing that stuck is like, oh, they really have experience building products at scale. So I want to at least put myself out there. Saw they're hiring for community, and I had tweeted before I knew they were hiring. I was like, oh, this looks amazing, but I wonder how they're going to do on community. So somehow that was like a month or so before I actually applied, and ended up seeing that opening. And I had made the decision at the time to try to make the leap, and actually applied. And then I just reached out, like cold message to Catherine on Discord, and I was like, hey, like, this is who I am, like I applied, let me know what you want to do, and or like how you want to proceed if you're interested. And yeah, the rest is kind of history from there. And really what really stuck to me and was important to me is the product was amazing. When I met them and talked with them, I could tell not only were they like really talented, smart people, they were hardworking, but they're good people and genuine people, which matters a lot to me, and really like sealed the deal to join the team.
Oh, that's so exciting. It's good to have a good vibe with someone, and be able to have those aligned like core values, like of wanting to see artists grow. And it's a platform by artists too. You're an artist, she's an artist. Dev and the code writers, the devs are also artists in their own right. There's some writing beautifully in Rust. It's a foreign language I can't
It
even
is.
comprehend,
Oof.
right? Such high level stuff. That's why we pay them the big bucks to do that kind of stuff. Um, so talk to me a little bit about some of your community like outreach or community management. What's some of the strategy that you're using for Form Function to help expand the community?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good question. I think something that a lot of people are curious about. So I can start first on like kind of like, what is community manager? Like what is your job? What are you doing? Like, are you just shit posting on Twitter all day? Like, and like what kind of the more specific efforts around that? So community manager is super interesting because it's kind of new position where it's this amalgamation of the strangeness of social media that is crypto. So I run our social media. So I'm like social media person. I'm like talk show host on like running Twitter spaces 5 days a week. I'm like a hype man. So like trying to get people excited. I'm a little bit of business development because I'm trying to make connections and like make partnerships both within Solana with individual artists and with potential partners outside of Solana that could bring in like new faces and new collectors. And then I'm also like a product person, and because our team is so small, everyone gives feedback on product, and we're always thinking of like, what's the next thing we want to build. So in that sense, thankfully I had some experience there. Like for my PhD side, I did research on like UX for tech UX, and for like mobile applications and for VR. And I also had some quant experience. So like that side, like I kind of had like a natural fit, and a little bit of experience in social media, like growing my personal account. But some of it's definitely been learning on the fly, I'm not going to lie. But it's been incredibly rewarding, and just meeting some of the incredible people in the space has been awesome. So in that sense, yeah, community management is like this amalgamation of like many different hats that I wear, but it's been super fun. In terms of the second part of your question, that's been definitely a challenge, growing in this sort of bearish markets. I think that's something that for sure we've seen like some people can do. Like Magic Eden has grown quite a bit in this market, so it's not impossible, but definitely a challenge. Our main focus, honestly, for this next quarter in terms of growth, is something we want to focus on is actually going to be stuff like this, like content creation. I mentioned to you before we started talking, just telling the human side of artist stories, developer story, builder stories. I think something that's kind of missing. Of course, we want to respect people's anonymity, even if they don't show their face, just hearing more of that personal story, where they came from, why they're motivated, what's next, I think is really important for moving this forward. And also for letting people know who maybe aren't aware, or they're maybe skeptical, they associate like, oh, it's just a bunch of like 8 pictures on the internet. Like there's like 5, it's like 5 people and like running all the accounts or something. And so in that sense, I think that human touch is really important and something we're going to focus on. And then broader than that, other efforts around just bringing on super talented artists and also leveraging our existing connections. We do have some artists who are more established in traditional art. So having them try to have collectors do transactions on chain, just explain to them. And I think Solana has a unique opportunity to lead there, where oftentimes using crypto is this really effortful thing. And we're really early. That always comes with early risky or like pioneering technology. I think the UX always takes some time. Early internet was really rough to use, and now it's gotten extremely well to the point where you can open an app on your phone. And I think Solana is kind of going this direction. We know the Solana mobile stack. It's going to hopefully feel like just using the internet, like on your phone or using any other application. And I think this is something that we really strive for. Is like, I always say this, but have FormFunction feel like using the internet. So when you do pitch this collector, when you do pitch a potential big artist who's skeptical, just be like, hey, download Phantom, get on our site, and you can mint something in like a minute with like, you know, maybe 50 cents of fees or something like that, whatever the minting is. And actually the new Metaplex standard makes it even cheaper. I'm pretty sure it's going to go down to like 2 or 3 cents. So that's like huge. That's going to be huge for just this massive onboarding. So just like getting the word out about the UX and also about the human side. And I think some of the human and like struggles that artists have gone through that they're willing to share.
I think you're going to be like that glue that bridges the gap between telling those stories and connecting to the in real life presence, because it seems like you have a really good foothold on what's needed for the market. You know, not everybody's going to want to jump to 5 different wallets, flip your USDC to a Tether, and then send it to BNB to like do some sort of transactions or whatever, you know. So like, let's say I'm a new artist, or maybe I'm from ETH, Tezos, BNB, Polygon, whatever the chain is. Walk me through FormFunction's application process.
Sure, definitely. So essentially, you just go onto our site, and you click on the top right to like create a profile. And so you're going to just create a profile where you choose a username and have an email. Pretty simple. There's a few other details you can provide. And then that's just like, you're on there and you can start collecting things if you want to collect. Then if you want to become an artist, it is a bit more of an involved process. So right now we have 2 ways you can be onboarded. So one way that's newer that we're piloting is the advocate program, where people that have been really active in the marketplace and have given back to the community actually receive 3 invites a month to onboard new artists. So that way is really simple, where if you have a connection with them or just meet them and they want to get you on, they're excited about your art, they can actually just invite you through our site by either linking that profile that you already made, or even just simple as sending you an email, which will prompt you to create an account. Once you create that account, you'll be good to start creating. So this one's like really, really fast if you do have a connection with an advocate. The more traditional one that we still have and we started out with is based on a voting process. So we are gated still. So both by this invite process and this voting process. The voting one's the one that we've had since the very beginning, since day one. Essentially, like, our team chose the first 50 or so artists for day one. And then since then, we've had any artist or collector that has either released a piece or been onboarded, or a collector that's collected just 1 or more pieces, can vote in this process. So to get to this process as an artist, you have to submit some things. You submit 3 pieces, ideally some of your best work. And we do ask, you can submit things that you've already like sold or minted, but once you do get accepted, we ask you not to remint those pieces. So like, don't double up like on mint the same exact piece on Super Rare and FormFunction, for example, but you can submit it if you just want to share your best work to our platform. You also submit your social media if you'd like. So Twitter, Instagram, and then a website if you have it. So if you really want to give people a complete picture, and then just a short description about your work and your process. I would encourage artists that do want to apply, try to submit all 3 pieces if you can. And give as much detail as you can about your background, like why you're excited about FormFunction, because I think, again, it comes back to that human element of really just telling your story in a way that's compelling and just real to people. I think people want to see more of that, and also that you took your time and carefully considered it. And the other part of that application process, I mean, that's all pretty much the artists do. They do that, they submit, and then there's just this waiting period where the current artists and collectors on the platform vote. And essentially, what if you get 50% or more of the vote of the existing community out of a total of 50 votes, so essentially like 25 out of 50 votes, then you get onboarded to the platform the next epoch. So it's definitely, I wouldn't say a perfect process. We are hoping to evolve it a little bit, and maybe we've gotten some good feedback around like potentially giving constructive criticism when you do like downvote somebody. So that way they have a better sense of, oh, what could I do different next time? And the other thing is, if you are rejected the first time, you can reapply, and we encourage you to take like 2 or 3 weeks to just reflect on the application or maybe submit a new work. And there are some artists that have applied, like Wayne Newton, and were rejected once, and then now have had like all-time high sales and had some success. So just to say, like, not to give up, even though it can be discouraging, and we do get that it can be kind of hard to hear that, and want to make it a little more transparent for artists. But that's basically the way that that you get on right now, is that voting process where you apply, or the invite process.
Hey, so asking for a friend, if anybody has any of those invites, your boy Brick Astley .soul could use one, or maybe a few. Who knows?
Just saying.
Just saying, that might be a little bit of alpha. So what does the future look like for FormFunction? What does the future look like for digital art on marketplaces and in real life?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So I have to break into two because they're both big ones. So we got just FormFunction, and then kind of the future of art. And of course, this is somewhat speculative. And with FormFunction, it's something we're adapting every day, and actually like putting together our Q3 roadmap right now. So yeah, with FormFunction, I'd say, so on the immediate horizon, for people that aren't aware, we just launched Campaigns, which is Web3 fundraising. And our launch artist is Robbie Showstone, who is raising for a short film, which eventually we hope the goal will be to show this at film festivals across the world. It won't be anything crazy in terms of length. It will probably be 2-3 minutes, like super short, with some dogs and jazz. It's like about dogs in a park. So that's really amazing to me, and something that I'm excited about, and I think really expands the possibilities for NFTs, where it makes very transparent and clear what the goal is for artists that do want to do a larger project. And that's not to say, I think something that we say a lot of FormFunction is art is utility. I think artists that do want to sell incredible visual art that's in and of the art and for the art itself is completely valid and healthy. I just think oftentimes artists do have like a larger scope project in mind. Maybe in this case, it's a short film, maybe it's a game, whether it's a card game or a video game, maybe it's a book for an author. And I think this will bring in different kinds of artists in the ecosystem and expand the types of projects, and kind of a cool, playful way to support, and also a way that gives the collector control of the asset still, and the artist control of their royalties when they do these raises. So in that sense, it's super exciting, I think, and really democratizes the fundraising process and gives like a small little perk to collectors. I feel like utility is this dirty word. We don't want to go like too crazy with the utility, but some small perks I don't think hurt if the artist does want to give them, and mainly just to give a different kind of fundraising mechanism. So I'd say like in the immediate future, that's our focus. The other thing I would say is we realize that people do sometimes want to include physical works. So that's something where we're going to ship unlockable soon. So dropping the alpha next week on July 28th, we're going to ship unlockables with Stefan Grossehalber. So he's an established artist on Ethereum and Tezos, who does his incredible illustrations. He's going to drop these Singing Door series, and this sort of approach will essentially, he's going to include these physical prints with each of his editions and the one-of-ones, and it's going to sign them and all this stuff. And I think as much as we love digital art, I do think in the long time horizon, digital and physical will start to merge more and more as NFTs gain more legitimacy, more traction, and digital art gains a bit more respect as a medium. But I do think that as humans, we just love having this tangible thing, or even if we own the digital asset, we can trade it. We love hanging the print up on the wall as well, or having this personal touch from the artist. So that's something where at first we're going to just kind of dip our toes in the water. We will include a UI push update where artists can make it really clear whether the piece does include an unlockable, and can even set like an unlock price. So if you have an auction where maybe it's only feasible to include the physical if you reach a certain reserve price, someone could buy like just the digital asset, or if they reach this sort of tick level, then they get the physical. And so this is just to introduce a little more transparency to collectors about what they're getting and what price that comes at beyond like the NFT metadata description. So again, dipping our toes in, be more on the UI side first, and facilitating a little bit of information exchange between collectors and artists. But after that, we'll see like how it goes, see what the traction is. I don't want to promise anything logistically because our team's so small. Like, a lot of people that are like, we want you to ship things, like become like the like Etsy or like Amazon of. Then we're so small still in the early stages. Of course, like on a long time horizon, that would be wonderful. But and we'll start here and then see what the traction is. Maybe unlockables like really unlocks a new dimension to people's art. So I would say kind of segues into my next question, or not question, but like point, which is I do think the future of digital is like more of a marriage with physical. I don't think digital will ever go away, but I do think we're going to need to get collectors from the physical world. And how that happens is like have an NFT act as like proof of ownership or something. I do think there's something for like purely digital assets still, to be clear. But I think that to get in more people and to make them like get excited or like have a tangible thing, it won't hurt to have like some of these perks like I talked about for artists that do want to provide them, and then also have the sort of physical aspect as well on top of it. That was what I'd say where it's going. And then the other thing I would say is I really believe NFTs, and like specifically one-of-one art NFTs, you see a lot of successful artists also be really successful marketers, or like having to put themselves out there and like handle that side of it, which is a little bit different than where like a gallery will like make a connection or like do some marketing, but for like a bigger chunk of commission. I think we're gonna see much more of like social like gamification and like just like community connection sort of features become important in one-of-one art, where maybe it's like a Patreon style model where it's like there's some sort of token gating if the artist wants to, or just ways to give back to collectors in small ways. You kind of get that with like PNFTs, where you like reward binners. This is participation NFTs for those who aren't familiar, where even if you don't win the piece, you get a piece of work from the artist. So I think these small ways where you can get these organic kind of grassroots giving back to collectors, and like facilitating that conversation and exchanging of like idea, whether it's like updates or small art that isn't like the main piece. I think that's going to be really important. So the small is like that community connection, more physical stuff, and these small like little perks, like in Robbie's film, being able to name a dog in the film. It's like a small thing, but it makes it like a little more fun. I've been referring to it as a pinch of DJ. Like we don't want to go too far into the PFP world, but like just a little bit of that.
That's so cool, having the unlockable like as part of like being able to like potentially like name a dog, or putting your name in that movie. Like then you can go to your friends like, my NFT got me in that movie. That's my movie. That's part of it. Like, and it creates that connection with the artist. I love the unlockable content as far as like shipping physicals. I've tried to attempt that in the past, like myself, and it's just interesting dynamic to add that in to help bridge that gap for the in real life and the physical. And oftentimes when I'm trying to onboard like family members or someone that asks me about like what I do in my degen hours, and I hand them the physical that's like, oh, this is an NFT. This is an NFT. Or like use the tennis ball comparison. Like I'm gonna get Serena Williams signature on a tennis ball. Which one's more valuable? They look the same, but this has Serena Williams' signature. It's not fungible. You can't fake it. So it's interesting being able to bridge those gaps. And I think that you and FormFunction are positioned well to do that with Solana. FormFunction, from what I've heard from a lot of the community members, has been such an exciting platform to use. I can't wait to dive in myself. With that in mind, do you have any final closing thoughts for any of our guests that are listening? Yeah, about FormFunction and why they should come submit.
Yeah, I guess closing thoughts, because we're getting close to time, would just be, yeah, a lot of us are artists. We have experience building products at scale, and we just love supporting you all. So I think that kind of comes through on our community side. We have a super exciting international community, people in London, in Malaysia, Indonesia, Brazil, the US, like Toronto. It's incredible to see just in 5 months how large international the community has become. And I just think right now we have this incredibly strong network effect of like artists selling other artists and like propagating in this global art world. And I really just believe, I've said this before, but I really think like it's hard to tell because of the kind of constant speed when you're embedded in it. But I really feel like part of an art movement right now. Believe we're living through the digital renaissance. And I've said this on my main account, but come be a part of it. Just like hop into a space, say hello, put yourself out there, and you'd be surprised. I think it's been incredible meeting the talented people here. And that's like one of the most rewarding parts for me. Of course, it's wonderful to sell your art and not give away your art for free, like just for likes and get paid for it. But really the people is why I do it, and the people is why I stay. So yeah, come for the people, come to FormFunction, check out the community, and just yeah, put yourself out there, give it a shot. And I would love to hear from you. Yeah, drop in my DMs on Twitter if you want.
Most excellent. That's how I got the interview. You just drop in the DMs, and very responsive, very appreciative of your time, getting to talk about your backstory, as well as talking about FormFunction. Make sure the appropriate links are on the bottom. Like, subscribe, share this, and yeah, make sure to go check out FormFunction. Thank you, CryptoMagellan. Be kind to yourselves, be kind to others. And when you go touch some grass this weekend, make sure to pick up a little bit of trash so that way we can have an earth to do this art thing, because there is no earth without art. GM.
GM.